The sky above is a blanket of dark clouds, pierced only by the dim glow of the moon. A cold wind howls through the rugged cliffs, carrying whispers of an ancient world. This is not just any night, it is a night steeped in legend. A time when mortals dared not tread too far from their hearths for fear of what might lurk beyond the firelight. In the Viking Age, the world was not simply what could be seen or touched. It was a place alive with forces both awe-inspiring and terrifying. The Norse believed that the 9 realms were teeming with beings beyond mortal comprehension. Gods and goddesses often took center stage in their myths, but they were not the only denizens of this rich tapestry. Beneath the gods' grandeur lay a shadowy world of forgotten creatures. Beings so fearsome, their tales were whispered only in hushed tones. But why were they forgotten? Perhaps it was fear, or perhaps it was an understanding that some knowledge was too dangerous to preserve. Tonight, we venture into this hidden world, unraveling the stories of 10 such forgotten creatures. The Restless Dead, Dragga. On a moonlit night, Sigvard climbed the hill toward Dragga, the mound of the Restless Dead. He was desperate, a warrior fallen from glory, now chasing whispers of gold buried with the dead. The villagers warned him, tales of Dragga, cursed guardians of their treasures, vengeful and undead. But Sigvard laughed. Stories couldn't hurt him. The air turned bitter as he pried open the mound's entrance, revealing a dark, suffocating tunnel. His torch lit the way, the flickering glow casting eerie shadows on walls etched with ancient runes. At the end, he found the burial chamber. Gold glinted in the firelight, piled high around a grotesque, bloated figure lying motionless. The Dragga. Sigvard hesitated, but greed won. He reached for a golden arm ring, his fingers brushing the cold metal. A growl rumbled through the chamber. The Dragga's glowing eyes snapped open as it rose to its full, monstrous height. "Who dares disturb me?" it rasped, its voice like cracking stone. Sigvard swung his sword, but the creature barely flinched. It laughed, mocking his efforts, its wounds sealing as quickly as they appeared. He was no match for this undead force. Desperate, he thrust his torch into the Dragga's face. Back in the cold night air, Sigvard collapsed, gasping. From the mound came a final menacing growl. The Dragga was not defeated, only waiting. And so, the treasure of Dragr remains untouched, a warning etched into the bones of Viking lore. Some riches are cursed, and some spirits never rest. The storm's fury. Jörmungandr, beyond the swirling mist of the ocean, where the gods themselves feared to tread, there lived a serpent so vast it encircled the world. Jörmungandr, the world serpent, lay coiled in the deep, its body stretching from one end of the world to the other. As a child, Olaf had heard tales of the great serpent, the son of Loki, who had been cast into the ocean by the gods. But Olaf never truly believed in the creature's power. That was until he sailed toward the horizon, driven by greed for riches beyond his wildest dreams. One fateful evening, Olaf and his crew sailed too far into the open sea. The wind howled and the waves grew furious. As they sailed, a shadow fell over the ship, so vast it darkened the entire sky. A terrible hiss echoed through the storm. They had disturbed Jörmungandr. The serpent rose from the depths, its scales glistening like black iron, its eyes glowing with an ancient wrath. With a flick of its tail, it sent Olaf's ship tumbling into the waves. The sea boiled as the serpent's massive body reared up, its enormous head looming over the sailors. Olaf knew then that no treasure was worth this fury. He could feel the heat of the serpent's breath as it swayed above, ready to strike. With a final roar, Jörmungandr disappeared back into the deep, leaving nothing but wreckage in its wake. The storm subsided, but the fear lingered in Olaf's heart. The serpent had not killed them, but its message was clear. Some forces, when disturbed, could never be tamed. The frozen stalker, Skadi. In the cold, harsh lands of the north, where winter never truly ends, Skadi, the goddess of winter and hunting, ruled. Though revered for her strength, few dared cross her path, for Skadi's anger could freeze the very soul. Einar, a seasoned hunter, was among those who laughed at the legends surrounding Skadi. Armed with only his bow and his wits, he ventured into the heart of the frozen wilds, seeking to prove his superiority over the land and its myths. One night, as Einar sat by his fire, he felt an eerie stillness, too silent for the forest. Then, through the thick snow, a figure appeared. Tall, clad in furs, her icy gaze piercing through the darkness. It was Skadi, and she was not pleased. Einar raised his bow, ready to fight, but Skadi's eyes held him captive, as if the winter itself had wrapped around his heart. "The hunt is not for you to control," she whispered. Before Einar could react, the snow around him deepened, freezing his feet to the earth. Skadi advanced, and with a single touch, the ice spread up his legs, freezing him from the inside out. The last thing Einar saw was Skadi's cold smile before the world turned to frost. The chained beast, Fenrir. In the forests of Midgard, a shadow stalked the land, a wolf so immense it could tear the world apart. Fenrir, the son of Loki, had been bound by the gods after they feared his strength. Yet, there was no chain strong enough to contain the beast's fury forever. Ragnar, a warrior of unmatched courage, had heard the prophecy. Fenrir would break free and bring about the end of all things. But he had dismissed it as a tale for children. One night, Ragnar ventured alone into the wild, seeking a challenge worthy of his blade. There, in the moonlight, he found the great wolf. Fenrir's eyes glowed with ancient fury, his chains now cracked and weakening. The siren's song, Selki. On the rocky shores of the northern seas, sailors spoke of a haunting melody that could lure even the most steadfast to their doom. The Selkies, shape-shifting creatures of beauty and tragedy, were said to rise from the ocean in human form to sing songs that could steal a man's soul. Hakon, a fisherman with a deep love for the sea, had heard the stories. But the siren call never reached him, or so he thought. One night, while fishing alone under a pale moon, Hakon heard it, the sweet, sorrowful song of a woman drifting on the wind. Mesmerized, he rowed toward the sound, his heart heavy with longing. There, emerging from the waves, was a woman, her dark hair flowing like the sea itself. Her eyes glistened with secrets, and her voice wrapped around Hakon's heart like a cold iron chain. Without a word, she beckoned him closer, and as he reached out to her, she revealed her true form, a Selkie, her skin covered in sleek, shimmering sealskin. With a swift motion, she pulled him into the sea, and Hakon sank into the depths, his body forever part of the ocean. The Eternal Watcher, Huldra deep in the misty forests of Scandinavia, where the trees seemed to whisper ancient secrets, there lived a creature both captivating and dangerous, the Huldra. With the beauty of a maiden, she was often mistaken for a mortal woman, yet her true form revealed a hollow back, like the trunk of a tree, and the tail of a beast. Legends spoke of her captivating allure, but those who followed her into the woods never returned. Torben, a young farmer, had heard the warnings about the Huldra, but thought them mere superstition. One evening, while walking through the dense forest to gather firewood, he caught sight of her, an ethereal figure bathed in the soft light of the setting sun. Her long hair cascaded down her back, and her eyes shone with an inviting, almost hypnotic glow. Torben, enchanted by her beauty, couldn't resist. He followed her as she walked deeper into the forest, her movements graceful and enchanting. With each step, he felt as if the world around him grew quieter, as if the forest itself was holding its breath. But the farther they went, the more Torben sensed something was wrong. The trees grew darker, the air colder, and a sense of unease settled over him. When he reached for the Huldra's hand, she turned to face him, revealing her hollow back and the monstrous tail that slithered behind her. The beast of the frozen north, Joton. In the distant northern reaches, beyond the land of the gods, the Jotun, giants of ice and stone, roamed the frozen wilderness. These monstrous beings were said to be the ancient enemies of the gods, their thirst for destruction endless. While the gods had driven most of the Joton back into the mountains, some remained in the forgotten corners of the earth, lurking in the shadows. Hilda, a warrior from a village near the frozen tundra, had heard the legends, but thought little of them. She had faced wolves, trolls, and even raiders with bravery, believing herself unstoppable. But one winter's day, that belief would be put to the test. She and her hunting party ventured far from their village, chasing a beast that had been terrorizing their lands. The snow-covered hills stretched endlessly before them, and the cold bit at their skin. After hours of tracking, they came upon a cave, a dark, foreboding opening that seemed to hum with an eerie energy. Inside, they found something far worse than any beast. A Joton, a giant of ice and rock, its eyes glowing with malice. It had been waiting for them. The creature's roar shook the mountains as it rose to its full height, towering above them with limbs like glaciers. Hilda fought with everything she had, her sword cleaving through ice and stone, but nothing slowed the Jotun's advance. With one swift strike, it shattered the ground beneath them, sending Hilda and her companions tumbling into a chasm below. Hilda awoke to find herself alone in the darkness, the Jotun's shadow looming above her. But instead of attacking, the giant simply watched, waiting for her to make the first move. The witch's curse. Velva. In the hidden corners of the Viking world, where the land was thick with magic and ancient runes, there lived the Velva, powerful seers and witches whose visions could alter the course of fate. Their magic was feared and revered, for they could call upon the spirits, change the weather, and even manipulate the lives of men. But some Velva were not content with mere prophecy. They sought to bend reality to their will, no matter the cost. Birgit, a young woman from a village near the mountains, had always felt a strange pull toward the unknown. When she first encountered a Velva in the woods, she was captivated by the woman's ancient power and wisdom. The Velva spoke of prophecies, of the future that could be shaped by those who knew how to wield magic. Birgit, eager to prove herself, begged the Velva to teach her. The Velva agreed, but at a price. "Magic always demands a sacrifice," she warned. "Are you willing to pay it?" Birgit, hungry for power, accepted without hesitation. She learned the dark arts, communed with spirits, and mastered spells that twisted time itself. But with every spell cast, a part of her soul withered away, lost to the magic that had once seemed so alluring. One day, as Birgit stood on the edge of the mountain, overlooking the village, the Velva's warning echoed in her mind. She felt the price of her magic settling in. She had become more shadow than flesh. Her eyes, once bright, were now hollow, and the very earth beneath her feet seemed to pull at her. The Velva appeared, her face like stone. "You have taken more than you could bear," she said, her voice as cold as the wind. "Now, the curse is upon you." With a single gesture, the Velva summoned a storm, tearing the earth apart and dragging Birgit into the abyss below. And so, the Velva's curse lingered, a reminder to all who sought to harness powers beyond their understanding. Some forces, once unleashed, could never be controlled.